and specifically Catholic opposition to Catholic social teaching, is exactly what we ought to have expected. This is no surprise. This is exactly what we would have expected. That is to say, most Catholics do not know Catholic social teaching. Most Catholics are not formed in a tradition of caring for the one they do not know and maybe don't necessarily care about. And so the whole strategy of what we've seen in parishes, it manifests itself in this kind of disinterest and disengagement. So, if we want to know why there's opposition, we simply don't. People don't know their tradition, and they haven't been formed in it. And Elena's passionate case for how faith should move us into a different place has been exactly my experience. It seems to me that if we are interested in the Catholic parish becoming a tool of social transformation, then we have to name it so. Catholic social teaching, as good as it is, doesn't take itself nearly seriously enough, in my opinion. And so, to the extent that Catholic social teaching is still our best kept secret, then we only see the fruits of that fact. My experience was that I was in a parish with lots and lots and lots and lots of apparently very nice people. If they were here today, and if they were serving coffee, and if they were taking care of the microphone or whatever, you'd think this is just a very nice person. But they were interested in nothing related to social ministry. And what dawned on me was not because they were bad. None of them had horns. None of them had fangs that I could see. And what I realized was they were completely unfamiliar with their tradition. If you said the phrase Catholic social teaching, they would not have known what you were talking about. My guess is that if they were sitting, I'm talking about this is a big brushstroke, I realize, but I would say that if 99% of them were sitting in the room right now, they would not understand why we were here, what the big deal was, and would not have heard of any one of your organizations. And I'm not trying to be, nasty or crabby here. That's been my experience. Well, anyway, to make a long story short, after trying about 75,000 different things, all of which attracted the same 3 people, none of whom I liked, I decided to actually try something else, and that was to adapt a tool that I had seen quite potent and effective. And the tool that I'm talking about, of course, was from a different, in some ways, disciplined church, and that was the RCIA process. While I was at Notre Dame, I was sort of on the cutting edge of people who were learning how to implement the RCIA, the theology underneath it, which, by the way, is basically a theology based upon spiritual growth, and the integration of that spiritual growth with things connected to church. One of the rubrics, one of the pieces of the RCIA rubrics is that when the elect have demonstrated a care for the poorest of the poor, it is determined that they're then ready to move on to the next step. In other words, there's an assumption that we wouldn't presume to baptize people unless they were already interested in, engaged with, and attentive to the needs of the poor and vulnerable. In any event, what I did was, to make a long story short, was to adapt the RCIA process, and instead of preparing people to become Catholic, how to prepare them to be saints, how to prepare them to be people engaged on the cutting edge of compassion and justice and mercy, how to involve people in the logic of Catholic social teaching in a passionate, deliberate, and important way. And so we got started. I didn't know exactly how it worked, but the fact, what did happen was that the 13 people who went through Just Faith that first year had profoundly transformative experiences that, quite frankly, not only prompted them into new ministries, but actually kind of redefined what it meant to be Catholic. And redefined what it meant to celebrate Eucharist. Redefined Eucharist, quite frankly. And I shouldn't say redefine it, but quite frankly, define it correctly. And define it accurately through the theological traditions of our church. And so what happened was, as people went through Just Faith in the parish that I was at, they came out, they became movers and shakers of social mission and social ministry. They started new projects, they started new committees, people would get involved, their lives would be changed. Every year we did Just Faith, another 15 people or so would come out, become movers and shakers, start new projects, start new committees. And really the whole logic behind the program was how, in some ways, to prompt people into I guess, a spiritual movement from disinterest or fear into engagement and passion. And